The prosecution spent a lot of time on domestic violence. There is no question there was domestic violence, and horrible domestic violence in this case, that went way beyond the video you've seen in 2016. So I just want to give you a couple of examples, and then I want to raise something, because I think there might be a problem here. The prosecutor, did you get into arguments? Cassie, yes, it would result in violence, dragging. Prosecutor, what else did he do? Cassie says, stomp me in the head if I was down. Prosecutor, how frequently did he get violent? Cassie, too frequently. I would get black eyes and bruises. Now, there's another example. This is Cassie. Sean came to my house, and this is when, by the way, she was dating her now husband, Alex Fine, before they got married and Diddy found out they were dating. She says, Sean came to my house and raped me on my living room floor. Prosecutor, did you ever have sex with him, Diddy, again? And she says, yes, voluntarily. We had a good night. I went back to his house. The prosecutor says, can you explain why you did that after he raped you? Cassie says, we had been together for 10 years. My question, and why don't we start with you, Nancy, is that's a crime, if true, but it's a state crime. And he's being charged with a specific federal crime. And a lot of people in the courtroom who are covering it, myself included here, I think there's the circle isn't complete. They haven't connected a lot of this domestic violence, I would even say most, to the criminal acts for which he's charged.
Okay. Well, remember, the state will have a closing argument to connect all the dots, but very clearly, what is being made out in this case is forcible rape and extortion. Extortion, what is that? Forcing someone to do something by many means. It could be threatening to release the freak-off tape. She was in fear of that. It could be fear of a beating, fear of being thrown out of her apartment or her home, and him keeping the key and her throwing her out on the street without her shoes like she testified to. All of that equals extortion, which is one of the federal charges. And not only that, remember, there's a fallback in this case, having people cross state lines to engage in prostitution. We've already made that out. That is a federal crime. Remember all the male sex workers that Diddy's associates, his confederacy, would fly in and make the travel arrangements for? That's why they were talking about that, Harvey, to prove the element.
Joe, what do you think? Because I got to tell you, in fact, let me just bring Brian Andrews in. He's our producer who's in the courtroom. Brian, my understanding is there were other people covering this who were wondering the same thing about all the domestic violence.
Well, it seems that that was their main show. They were just hoping to make him look as awful as he possibly could in front of this New York jury. And I'll tell you, watching the jurors and their reactions, in the beginning yesterday, they were riveted to what Cassie was saying, and she was stunning. I mean, she walked in, and all eyes were on her. You could not help but have your heart broken as she talked about her love for Diddy through the years, and that she'd do anything, but that the drugs and the possessive nature of it, and just the crazy nature of flying all over the world.
I want to get into the domestic violence, because you and I had a discussion about this, that people were wondering about why the focus on that so much, where they were wondering how it connected.
Well, I think people were wondering why they started this way. I mean, they're trying to prove federal cases, but a lot of the people who have been in the courtroom with me are thinking they're just trying to paint Diddy with the ugliest brush they can.
Good grief, what is wrong with you people? Haven't you seen Mission Impossible? How it starts with an incredible scene? That's what we're doing. Gary goes to Tacopina. Ebony, you all know about trying cases. You know it's true. You start with a bam, and that's what they did.
Mark?
So this is what I would call, and Nancy and I have had this, what would you call it, Nancy? Spirited discussion for many years. She calls this...
You ran away with your tail between your legs mostly, but okay, spirited discussion.
She tells this as, oh my goodness, this is just starting off with a bang. I call this the character assassination block, whether it's this case or any other case.
They didn't do that. He did that to himself. Oh, was that the prosecutor, Emily Johnson, running down the hotel hallways wearing nothing but a towel?
prosecutors come out and they just assemble all of the worst things that they can do because obviously it's easier
they're
to
crimes.
demonize a defendant. It's easier to make the jury hate the defendant. I mean, part of what trying a case is you want a juror to want to help your client.
What's next will shock you. Stream the full episode for free on Tubi, link in the description.